these are the takes. These are the takes. Then we just finished the game. So, yeah, G, thank you for the GG. Here's the problem with Nioh. The plot is almost incomprehensible. We had the core beats, but there's just a lot to follow, and even background in the era doesn't quite save you because these are all, you know, fictionalized versions, and there's yokai versions, and there's just a lot happening. I am okay. I'm assuming the music volume will go down now. So, what I was getting back to is the game is very overwhelming in all respects, narratively, mechanically, sort of everything. The game is very, very overwhelming, and that's to its strength and to its weakness. I think that's sort of the core problem of Nioh from its inception at Nioh 1, and where I think Nioh 2's greatest strengths and weaknesses are. It's a very similar game. And then Nioh 2 is a lot stronger. The systems feel so much smoother. The yokai stuff is incredibly fun, and once you get into it, very intuitive and very easy to work into your movesets. So that I liked a lot. The additions of all the yokai stuff just all almost universally great. New weapon types. You clearly like the Switchglaive. Love the Switchglaive. A lot of fun. There's a lot to like here. I think, again, much like Nioh 1, I think even more so than Nioh 1, I followed the plot of Nioh 1 more or less, because we were very tied to William and this specific journey he was taking along with the Ieyasu campaign. So it's hard to follow some of the broader... Oh, there's some big names in here. Hard to follow some of the broader strokes of the geopolitics and the troop movements, but on the whole, the game started off very clearly with a goal of getting back Saoirse and finding the truth behind whatever the bad guy's name was. In Nioh 2, I think because we obscured the bad guy for so long, it was very much just, here is the bad guy, now go do stuff. And then I think the issue I have with the narrative is that the jumping around from time periods is very cool for visiting various historical events and for the purposes of keeping us invested in a long-term plot and seeing only the highlights, but in doing so, like, it made it very hard to keep track of everything. So it was difficult to follow this thing frequently. But again, some of the overwhelmingness is part of the charm, just because there is so much going on at any given time that this just like massive cast of characters and people coming in and out of the game and random named mini bosses and stuff like that does add to the texture of the world, and is nice little shoutouts if you do have the historical background for the period and recognize, oh yes, that was a person who is famous, you know, kind of the Dynasty Warriors effect. But yeah, I think very much to your point there, Holly, like learning the story is like learning the mechanics. I think that's sort of, the game is very maximalist in a lot of regards in terms of how much is going on. I was talking to friends about this recently, and the idea that Nioh 2 and Nioh at large plays so differently than the FromSoft games, despite being similar in structure to like an individual level in Nioh, plays similarly to an individual level in Dark Souls, in a Souls-like, right? So I think this is broadly speaking a Souls-like, but yeah, and I agree for the record, like once the story like hits Tokishiro's the villain, we have a goal, a very clear goal. We have a smaller cast at that point, and we're very focused on it, and that's very easy to follow. I totally agree. Tokichiro arc way better, and this is what I think the frustration was for the first half of the game, is that you just end up with like this nameless bad guy who was just very clearly the bad guy. And that's all you're doing. You're just sort of following him around as he creates villains of the week. And that's sort of very hard to, I guess, come to grips with. But on the gameplay front, like I was just mentioning, the core difference is that in a given moment in Dark Souls, for example, right? Dark Souls 1 especially, you have the option to roll. You can block if you're using a build that can block, or you can do one of your 2 attacks, and then you have items and magic, and that's sort of it. In Nioh, you have 3 different stances, each with their own properties for dodging and blocking. All of your skill tree moves, strong and light attacks, and combo strings from strong and light attacks. And now we're adding on top of this burst counter and yokai abilities, and still guardian spirit and magic and items. There is so much going on at any given moment of combat, and so many decisions you can make. And that is, again, much like the story is massively overwhelming, and that adds to the texture of the world. The amount of options you have in combat is a huge part of the game's successes. And the reasons why I think moment to moment Nioh feels so good is that there's just so much access to power, which is, I think, a really fun thing to do. Much like a character action game like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, you have access to this massive range of combo attacks and special moves all the time. And your goal is to apply that wherever you want to. Then the big difference here that makes this less of a character action and more of a Souls-like is not just the world structure, which is very clearly Souls-like, but in it's the way the game is so punishing, even more than the FromSoft games in a lot of cases. There are like random skeleton warriors that we got two-shot by on like their basic attack combo, just like attack, attack, we're dead from full, right? This game is extraordinarily punishing, but gives you all the tools to never get hit, which is a very, very, very interesting thing, even more so than the FromSoft games do. So, all that said, the overwhelmingness of Nioh is, on top of that, right? Not just in gameplay, in moment to moment, and not just in story, but items. This is a massive, overwhelming pile of items you have to go through all the time, where you're flooded with soul cores, you're flooded with items, weapons, and armor. There's all these armor sets. There's dozens and dozens of armor sets, let alone just picking armor with all these randomized Diablo-style stats. So, and that again, gives you a lot to work with. And I think in a very clever twist, makes it so your decisions are almost less important, because the differences between items on your, before you start min-maxing, are going to be fairly minimal. You can work on it, but there's only so much you can do, and the weapons that drop at the next level are probably going to be substantially stronger than anything you've picked up before that point. So it's very easy to sort of like follow the numbers, go up in the main stats, armor is higher, base attack's higher, you're generally going to be doing fine. So that at least feels good. And then, yeah, absolutely, it's certainly Bloodborne, Diablo, somewhere in there. And I think that plays very much to Nioh's strengths. Like I said, like I think the fact that this game is just so much to dig into is the appeal. That there's just so much going on, because like this game lacks the world coherence that the FromSoft games do, right? Like it's all individual missions, which is totally fine. It lacks some of the thematic coherence of the FromSoft games, but this is the only game that I've played that like really stands toe to toe. Hold on, I want to see how many people did this. We gotta see. It stands toe to toe with the FromSoft games in a lot of respects, as a very, very different experience, but I think it very much deserves its spot in the conversation. The real merit of Nioh 2 is in its function as a form of historical documentation. Yeah, absolutely. Either set out or prevent the seeds of war from being sown. Let's get going, Hitty. So we will get to that in a second. I want to finish the takes real quick. So yeah, it's just, man, there's just so much going on at any given moment. And that is just, that's, like, just, we have how many items? We have 335 items, and we just got rid of like 400. So we'll check this out in a sec. This looks good though. Man, so I think that the key behind Nioh is just being willing to embrace and immerse yourself in just how overwhelming it is. And if you're somebody who likes that kind of thing or is interested in that kind of thing, this is very much a Souls-like that you should absolutely try out. The combat is extraordinarily fluid. Almost every weapon type that I've played with is an absolute blast, and I've tried all of them. They're just, it's a blast to have these super fluid, lengthy combos and powerful attacks, as a contrast to Dark Souls with this more measured combat. Alright, sounds good, Hydra. Good to see you tonight. And yeah, so absolute blast with that, and once you get there and focus on that as sort of your anchor, all of this overwhelming mass amount of information and texture going on just sort of lends itself to a really, really exciting experience, where this core anchoring feature, which is the super, super slick combat system with the triple stances, is always unfolding with new possibilities. So I love all that about it. Of course, again, it's very hard to follow some of these things at times, but what can you do, right? So these are just the first takes. I might put these up on YouTube. I do this as a ritual, right? The credits takes. So I might just throw this up on YouTube as my, you know, my Nioh 2 note. And of course, the rest of the Nioh 2 is in the VODs on Twitch. So if you're watching this and it is put up on YouTube, thanks for watching this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you want to see more credits takes in the future, or at least on YouTube, because I do it no matter what. So let me know if you want to see more of these. And thanks for being here. Check out the Twitch stream, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.